So Boruto's in a race against time. Sasuke might actually die at the end of this manga, and it all goes back to the ticking time bomb that is the Thorn Soul Bulb. We also have Code, who after being farmed down by Boruto once again, has to make a choice. He can either become a good ally or become Boruto's greatest enemy. So as you can see, we have a lot to discuss, but of course, let's start from the top. So the chapter opens to Boruto caressing the Thorn Soul Bulb of Mamushi. And of course, following the conversation that took place in the prior chapter, Kawaki is confused about what Boruto meant by rot away. Boruto then glares at him for some reason and tells him that the bulb will rot within minutes and the person that was turned into a tree will die. And of course, as I pointed out in my spoiler, this is obviously foreshadowing, possibly, Sasuke's death at some point in the future. And by the way, this isn't new information. We learned this back in chapter 13 when Jura himself first brought up the possibility of the bulb, Hidari's bulb, by the way, which is Sasuke's bulb, rotting before he has a chance to resurrect him. So even back then, the manga hinted at the possibility of Sasuke dying before being resurrected. And this conversation is serving as a reminder that even if they were to somehow defeat Hidari once again, there is still the possibility that Sasuke dies before they're able to bring the Thorn Soul Bulb back to his body. So this is pretty much basic foreshadowing. Ikimoto could have had this convo happen off screen. Kawaki could have been informed of this at some point in the past when he and Boruto had multiple conversations, or in his convo with Sarada or Shikamaru. He could have learned about the rotting of the Thorn Soul Bulb from literally anyone, and also at any point in time. But Ikimoto wanted that to happen on screen, on panel, to remind you of the possibility that this might happen to someone we know and love. And that of course then brings us to the 10 Tails dimension, because Boruto then teleports there because he's trying to save Bug, even though he's a villain, because Boruto is just that type of person. He wants to save everyone. Maybe not Jura, because he did call Jura a tree in a very derogatory way and tried to kill him, but I do understand, Jura is trying to end the entire planet and Bug is just a regular scientist, okay? Those are two different levels of evil. So anyways, Boruto is trying to save Bug, so he teleports to the 10 Tails dimension. And of course, because Koji has the all-seeing power of prescience, he tells him that if he goes there, Code will show up and try to kill him. Though it's also important to note that Code was supposed to show up during the battle with Mamushi, but he didn't, because destiny was changed during the battle with Mamushi by someone. Maybe by Inojin, maybe by Sarada, maybe by Himawari, who knows? There's the butterfly effect. Every single change changes something. So Code was initially supposed to show up during the battle with Mamushi, but that didn't happen, so now he's going to show up in the 10 Tails dimension. And this is important because it shows that Code's goal isn't to get the Thorn Soul Bulb to gain some power up. He's actually just trying to kill Boruto. That's all there is, really, to Code. But also, Koji tells him that there are three possibilities. Either Boruto kills Code when he shows up, or Code runs off and he goes after Sarada to use Sarada as bait to lure Boruto in, or the third option is that Code becomes an ally and helps them to defeat the Shinju. So Boruto is going into this battle with Code with all of that knowledge in mind, and this of course will influence his choices. Now Boruto then teleports to the 10 Tails dimension using Flying Thunder God and immediately activates his Karma Seal and Byakugan, and he uses it to see the claw mark of Code on the other side of the tree, waiting for Boruto to arrive. He then approaches slowly. And of course you have Code doing the typical villain monologue where the villain thinks they've won and the main character is a fool, whatever, typical stuff. And of course Boruto plays into this and pretends not to notice Code, but as soon as Code emerges from the claw mark when Boruto is about to insert the Thorn Soul Bulb into the tree, he then activates Uzuhiko and tries to land a hit on Code. Code sees it just in time and was able to dodge it, then once again does the typical villain monologue where the villain realizes that the main character wasn't actually a fool and didn't actually walk into his silly trap. Okay, typical stuff again. Now Boruto then once again farms on Code, telling him to come at him and to be more confident. Don't be such a baby, don't be such a coward. And of course Code simply runs away as per usual, because he doesn't want the smoke, he can't handle the smoke. And at this point, is this even R farming? Does this even count? It's like trying to R farm on a baby. It's like Beerus trying to flex his might against like part 1 Krillin. Is that even impressive at this point? I don't know. I feel nothing. It's just code. Code's existence itself is embarrassment enough. I feel like you can't R farm on someone like Code. There's no points. There are no points to gain, if you get what I'm trying to say. But anyways, because Boruto decided to R farm for a bit longer, the bulb started to rot away, and he was a bit too late to place it on the tree to resurrect Bug, and Bug turned into a puff of smoke. His body literally melted. It's like that scene from, I think it's called The Wizard of Oz, where the witch melts and the body simmers down. That's pretty much what's happening to Bug's body, which means that is what will likely happen to Sasuke if Ikimoto has the courage. I hope he doesn't, but that would be pretty crazy. I would say that Boruto obviously wasn't trying to kill Code here, because that Uzuhiko clearly wasn't the full power Uzuhiko. He just formed it in the moment, similar to what he did to Jura. So I think what he was trying to do is to induce the Coriolis effect, where he starts to see the world rotating and he's off balance, which is what he tried to do to Jura. It wasn't a full power Uzuhiko that Jura tanked, it was a very weak one that wasn't fully charged. And as I pointed out in my spoiler review, I don't understand why Boruto would spare Code even after Koji tells him that Code leaves the dimension and then goes after Sarada to use Sarada as bait against Boruto. Like, you'd think he would be against that happening. I'm sure he is, but you'd think he would do everything in his power to prevent that, including attacking Code very aggressively and not giving him the chance to escape, which is what he did. And someone pointed out in my comments that Boruto might feel some type of sympathy towards Code, which we have seen before in prior chapters, in chapter 4 I believe, when he tried to team up with him and tried to appeal to him as well. And they believe it's because Boruto thinks he was used as a tool similar to Kawaki, and he's trying to show him a bit of mercy per se. But I guess we'll see how that plays out. I don't think Code is going to make a switch. I just think he's a bit too far gone, a bit of a psychopath, a bit of a cultist, but we'll see. Now we also have Sarada waking up in the hospital speaking to Sakura, finally, about what's going on. Sakura then gives her her glasses and tells her to tell her how many fingers she can see, and even with the glasses, Sarada's vision is still very blurry. She then goes on to explain what everyone knows, which is that once you overuse the Mangekyo, you start to lose your sight, and of course, depending on the jutsu you use, it does degrade it a bit more than the others. So if Sarada uses Ohirume, it would degrade her vision more than the typical genjutsu, for example. Now Sarada then apologizes, which wasn't clear in the spoilers, but she's pretty much telling Sakura that she's going to continue using it even if it means going blind. But Sakura isn't upset. She hugs her, then tells her that she's not going to tell her to stop because it's a strength that she brought into being herself, which is very interesting. And I had this debate the other day with Ood, and if Ood is in the comments, remember I told you that Obito created the Kami dimension when he awakened the Mangekyo, and we had a debate that Mangekyo users actually create their abilities by themselves, which is based on their desires. It's not pre-installed, it's based on their experiences and also their current circumstances. And I know it's kind of a stretch to run with that based on this statement, which isn't referent to that specifically in that moment, but I'm gonna run with it anyway, okay? But anyway, Sakura then says, "You want to help Boruto, right?" And Sarada of course starts to blush because she's in love with Boruto, we all know, yada yada yada. And then Sakura says, "You're truly my child, to be willing to cast everything aside, all for the sake of a single boy. You're also like your dad, always going up against something massive, no matter how bad the personal toll is. His big brother too." So this is pretty much Sakura just throwing in the entire family tree here to put on Sakura's character. It's pretty on the nose, but also very fitting as well. But she also says that she will always believe in Sarada and her dad, which is important, and she's also used to being lectured about her family, which points to the situation of the Uchiha clan, in the village at this point in time, which I know some people are very emotional about. They're like, the villagers are still treating Sasuke badly and whatever, but you have to understand, this guy ran away with the person that killed the beloved Hokage, the savior, the messiah of the planet, Naruto Uzumaki. Of course, people are going to hate him. And then you have the daughter of that person running around for that father and the person that killed Hokage. You have to understand, from their perspective, this family is a bit dangerous. And I know there's that scene, that panel from way back in chapter 61, I believe, where you had this Jonin giving Sasuke, crap. And that also made sense. Sasuke did some crazy stuff in the past, which I do think they should have been able to move past at that point in time. But I can understand if you have individuals who aren't ready to do that as yet. That's totally fine and totally normal, and would also happen in the real world. Now this right here is a bit more crazy when you have the Hokage that was killed, supposedly killed 3 years ago, which is a bit more recent in everyone's memory. So I'm sure everyone is lecturing Sakura about her criminal husband supporting the person that killed the Hokage, and that's totally fine for them to do. But what I do love is that Sakura seems to know the entire truth about the Itachi stuff and the Uchiha clan massacre, because she does mention Itachi in a very good light. And I remember back in Naruto, they didn't tell her about it. It was a secret between Naruto, Kakashi, Yamato, and Sasuke, and they promised not to tell anyone else. But it does seem like Sasuke did tell Sakura, which makes sense. It's his wife, the person carrying on the legacy of the Uchiha, at least in name. So yeah, that's great. But anyway, Sakura has a job to do, so she's summoned, and before she leaves, she turns to Sarada and shouts Sakura's usual slogan, but in the official, they changed it to "Oh yeah," which I think is a bit strange. I don't know why they would do that, but whatever. Then we also get these panels of Sakura walking away and crying, because even though she's putting on a brave face for Sarada, she is upset, she's concerned about her daughter going blind and the entire situation of her family being disbanded. She has no idea what's happening to Sasuke, her husband. Her friend is dead. Like, Sakura's entire life is a mess at this point. We just don't get to see that perspective often because, well, you guys know. Anyways, let's move on. We then skip to Chocho coming to terms with the fact that Boruto is an ally to the village, although I'm not sure how she feels about him, killing the 7th Hokage, the person she admired as well, if you guys read Naruto Gaiden. But yeah, Chocho now thinks Boruto is really hot and she's fantasizing about him and also Kawaki as well. And I know, I do think I get what they're going for here, but there's a bitter taste in my mouth about this entire interaction, because we have to remember that Chocho knows nothing about the truth about omnipotence, nor does she know that Naruto is alive. We can understand Mitsuki working with Boruto because he was told that Naruto is alive, that the 7th is safe. He knows this. So from the perspective of Mitsuki, there's less of a reason to hold a grudge against Boruto. But from Chocho's perspective and from Konohamaru's perspective, this person killed the Hokage, displaced his son, destroyed his life. Even if he's helping you, you shouldn't be friendly towards him or speaking of him in a good way. It just seems like it would be way more fitting if they were told that Naruto is alive and the situation with Boruto and Kawaki isn't what it seems to be. Then there'll be more of a reason for them to be a bit more charitable towards him, but that hasn't happened. So it just seems a bit weird for Chocho and them to be speaking about him in this kind of way. I don't know, maybe that's just me. Anyways, that is it for the chapter. Aside from Amado telling Kawaki to come see him, which I'm sure is just gonna be for him to get a power boost or maybe something that stops him from overheating. It's not gonna be something new, I'm sure, but we'll see. In any case, it was a good chapter, it was a good read. Not much happened, it's just a very standard chapter. But yeah, with that said, if you guys liked the video, drop a like. If you're new, subscribe, and I'll see you guys on the next one. Peace.